You know those moments when you're sitting in a meeting or you're having a difficult conversation and you feel that pull, this tension between too soft and too strong? So today we're going to unravel that tension and discover how to be both graceful and powerful, because that's your natural state. So I'm going to share a vulnerable moment with you. Last week I was in a negotiation. It wasn't a high stake negotiation, but nonetheless it was a negotiation. And the thing is, the old me would have bulldozed through that negotiation, either pushing through with pure force or compromising way too quickly. But something different happened. So what I did was walk into that room and I grounded my softness and my strength. Instead of pushing or yielding, I created space. I listened deeply. And when I spoke, it was with both warmth and unwavering clarity. And you want to know the results? A better deal than I actually hoped for, and stronger relationships moving forward. And the thing is, the person that I was negotiating with is a tough cookie, I'm telling you. But I did it, and out of that, our relationship actually grew stronger. And this is what happens when you master the art of feminine power. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So let's talk about understanding power. So let's talk about water. Water can carve through mountains, and not by force, but through persistence and flexibility. Water knows how to flow through obstacles and when to wear them down slowly. That's what you call soft power, and it's incredibly potent. So now think about fire: direct, transformative, immediate in its impacts. That's hard power. And yes, we need that too. The magic happens when you learn to be both water and fire. So let me show you what this looks like in real situations. In negotiations, relationships, leadership, and in everyday interactions. So let's talk about emotional intelligence. And this is where emotional intelligence becomes your superpower. And it's not about just being empathetic, it's about being strategically empathetic. So let's break this down. Number one, reading the energy. It's about knowing how to scan a room, understanding unspoken dynamics, and identifying emotional currents. You have to know how to read a room. You have to know how to read a person without them saying anything. Because if you don't, you'll end up either saying the wrong thing or coming in the wrong way. And that can just cause you to it can cause so many things. Because I've been in situations where people say they've walked into a room and it's a room where people are maybe negotiating, or they could be talking about something serious. They've come in high energy, loud. That can just mess up a whole relationship. That can make somebody just not want to work with you in the future. So you have to know how to read a room. Number two, choosing your response. You have to know when to use soft power, because it's not all the time you need to do soft power. Sometimes you have to be more direct, but you have to know when to use soft power. You also have to know when to employ direct action and how to blend both of them effectively. So like I said, it's not just about always being in this soft power. Sometimes you have to mix the softness and the directness into one to have that balance. And that's when the masculine energy and the feminine energy merges together. So number three, managing your own energy. You have to know how to maintain your center and knowing how to shift between modes fluidly, and doing that while staying authentic throughout. So when I say that could come down to having to, sometimes when we're in certain social situations, we have to kind of conform to the situation, but you want to be able to do that in a way where you are still being you, you're being authentically you, you're not actually becoming somebody else or trying to portray somebody else. You're able to move fluidly within the situation, but whilst staying authentic, if that makes sense. So now let's make this real. I'm going to share 3 scenarios which we all face and show you exactly how to navigate them. So scenario 1, giving difficult feedback. The old way, either too harsh or too gentle. The balanced way, leading with understanding whilst maintaining clear standards. So let's move on to scenario 2, and this is about setting boundaries. The old way, either rigid or permeable. So now for the balanced way, firm but flexible, clear but kind. So when setting boundaries, sometimes people feel like they have to be harsh with setting boundaries, but you don't have to be harsh to set boundaries, because people see boundaries as kind of telling somebody what they do or don't like, or sharing with somebody the way to treat them. They feel like they have to do it in a forceful way, but you don't. You still can be kind and firm at the same time. It's about that balance. So let's move on to scenario 3, which is leading through crisis. The old way, either controlling or passive. The balanced way. Decisive action with emotional attunement. So even though we didn't go deep into those scenarios, I hope you kind of understood and kind of got the gist of them. So we don't want to just watch this video and then forget it. We want to be able to put these scenarios into action. So let's talk about how to embody them in your daily life. What I'm going to do is give you 3 power practices. I know there's a lot of teaching going on right now, but that's what it's all about. It's about learning from these videos. So number 1, the morning ritual. So you start off with energy alignments, which could be a sound bowl meditation, or it could be a guided visualization meditation, but just do something that helps you to align your energy. Set your intentions. So you could set your intentions for the day. So it could be a thing where you set 2 to 3 daily intentions. So one could be to do your scripting, one could be to finish off a piece of work, the other could be to ensure that you pray or spend the time with God. That could be your 3 intentions for the day. And the next is to do your power pose. So your power pose could be where you stand in the Wonder Woman power pose, where you stand with your 2 feet shoulder width apart and your hands on your hips. That's a power pose, and do that for maybe a minute or so, and you'll feel your energy change. So number 2, which is the communication framework, and we're going to dive deeper into this. So the communication framework consists of the pause principle, the bridge technique, and the power of strategic vulnerability. So let's dive into this now. So let's first talk about the pause principle. Most people will rush to fill silence, but true power lies in being comfortable with it. And here how it works. Instead of, I don't agree with that proposal and here's why. Try this, I hear what you're proposing. I'd like to explore further. So let me tell you a little story. The same person that I had the negotiation with that I explained at the beginning of the video, we also had a heated conversation in regards to timelines and when the work would be finished. And they wanted it a lot earlier than it was possible. So instead of jumping in with my objections, I took a conscious pause and the energy in the room shifted. So sometimes that's all it takes, just to go quiet. Don't say a word, just pause for a moment and you'll see how energy shifts. So let's move on to the bridge technique. This is where we blend grace with authority. It's about creating connections whilst maintaining boundaries. So I'm going to give you 3 examples, and here's the first one. So this one's in professional settings. Instead of, that's not going to work, try, I appreciate your creative thinking here. What I believe will serve our objectives better is, and then you let them know what it is. So let me give you example 2, which is in regards to personal relationships. Instead of, you never listen to me, try this. I value our connection deeply and I need to share something important with you. Do you see the difference in the tone of that sentence? It's completely different, and based on that you'll get a different reaction. So now let's move on to example 3, which is in leadership. This is where true feminine power shines. It's about knowing when to share humanity whilst maintaining authority. So let me give you a professional example. I want to be transparent with you. This project challenged some of my assumptions, and here's what I learned. So now let me give you a team dynamic example. I'm noticing some hesitation in the room. I'd like to create some space for us to explore what's really happening here. So you see how in those 3 different scenarios I'll come across in a more vulnerable way, which would allow people to feel comfortable to share. And that's what it's about. It's about using your feminine power to come across and to show bits of compassion and vulnerability, which opens a gateway for people to feel comfortable and to want to share. So now let's move on to number 4, which is a power phrase bank. So now I'm going to give you some go-to phrases that blend grace and authority. For disagreements, I have a different perspective to offer. I'm curious about what led you to that conclusion. Let's explore this from another angle. So let's move on to for setting boundaries. That doesn't align with what I know we can achieve. I want to honour both your needs and the requirements of this situation. Here's what I can commit to. So if you notice in the boundary setting, words like we is used, and it's always about including them. So letting them know that they are included within this boundary. It's not just about me, it's about us. So that's why it's important when you're setting boundaries to word them in ways to make the person feel like you're not going against them. You're trying to gain their understanding and they're actually included. So now for the more difficult conversations. I'm committed to finding a solution that serves everyone. Let's take a moment to understand what's really needed here. I want to address this in a way that strengthens our relationship. Do you see, in all those sentences, it was about showing a bit of compassion and going about them in a feminine way, using your feminine power. There's so much power within our femininity, and using femininity within our conversation and in our boundary setting and in leadership, it makes things a lot more easier. That's why I'm trying to guide you ladies into strengthening your feminine power, because there's so much strength within it. So now let's move on to energy management in communication. So now it's time to dive deep into energy management, because this is where most of us leak our power or overcorrect into harshness. I'm going to share how to maintain your center when the pressure is on. So number one, the power center activation. So first, let's do this together right now. So what I want you to do is place one hand on your belly, just underneath your navel. So this is your power center, your dantian, as they call it in Eastern practices. Before high stake moments, take 3 deep breaths into your center. So I want you to be breathing like this. I want you to feel your feet grounded into the earth or grounded onto the floor. And then imagine roots extending from your feet down into the ground. So you can practice this whenever you feel like your emotions are heightened, you're about to enter a situation that which you fear will kind of shift your energy. Do that practice. I've used that technique myself. I've just used it in random situations. I've used it when, say, I need to go and speak in front of a lot of people. I've used it even before I've recorded YouTube videos, because sometimes I just need to center. I could be in like a weird mood and I just need to get into that mind frame. So I just need to center myself, and that is one of the best practices that I use to kind of center myself. So definitely try it. So now let's talk about energy modulation. So this is just about maintaining your energy and also protecting it. So if you're in a confrontational situation, what I'd advise you to do is soften your gaze whilst maintaining eye contact. Keep your shoulders relaxed but elevated. Speak from your power center and not your throat. So make sure you're speaking from your stomach, not from your throat, because when you speak from your throat, it's quite hollow. So speak from your center. That shows power and confidence. Maintain a slight Mona Lisa smile. The Mona Lisa is not smiling, but it's just like a blank kind of look, really. It's not too much of a smile, but it's not too much of like a straight face. So practice the Mona Lisa smile and use the waterfall breath technique, which I'm going to explain to you later. So now let's move on to how we use energy modulation in intimidating environments. Take up space physically but gracefully. Keep your movements deliberate and fluid. Use a sphere of influence. Practice strategic stillness. So now I'm going to explain to you what the waterfall breath technique is. And this is your secret weapon for instant centering whenever you need it. Inhale for 4 counts, imagining drawing energy up your spine. Then hold for 2 counts at the crown of your head. So then what you do is exhale for 6 counts, letting it flow out like a waterfall. And what you should feel is like a cascade of calm washing over your body. And you can use this in situations such as when somebody's challenging you in a meeting or before delivering difficult news. And you can also use it during tense negotiations or simply when you feel your energy scattering. So now let's talk about energy leaks and how to seal them. There are times when our energy just leaks, and it's literally that. We need to know how to seal it. So let's move on. So let me give you some examples of common energy leaks. Nervous laughter, excessive nodding, unconscious apologising, fidgeting, or your voice rising at the end of sentences. Let me teach you the power seal protocol. Ground through your feet. Engage your core slightly. Keep your shoulders connected to your back. Maintain a stable gaze and speak in complete thoughts. So now let's move on to the pressure point reset. So these are your emergency reset buttons. So you should know that this part of us, our head, is our third eye. So this is a reset button. The center of our palm is a reset button. The dip at the base of your throat is a reset button. And the center of your chest is a reset button. Let me tell you how to reset in each of these places. So firstly, press your third eye 3 times. And next you sweep your hand over your face. Then you press your sternum whilst taking 3 deep breaths. And then you release with a soft smile. There's so many different techniques that we can use, and a lot of the time we don't know these techniques, and we can literally do these wherever we are. People might look at you, but who cares? Who cares? You are recentering your energy. So do what you have to do to make yourself feel better. So now let's move on to advanced energy mastery. So what I want to do is teach you one more method before we leave or end this section of the video, and it's called the energy matching method. So what I want you to do starting from today is read the room's energy when you enter. Any room that you enter, read the energy. And then what you do is match it initially to create a rapport. And then gradually, once you've been in there for a long time or for a good amount of time, shift it to where it needs to be. And then what you do as a feminine queen is lead energetically without force. I think as women, you know, there's so many different ways, there's so many different techniques, there's so many ways to go about leading, and leading with feminine power as well as grace for authority. And it's just about adapting our world to be able to welcome these new techniques in. And through this, we will become better leaders, we will become better in relationships, we will become better women. So I know there's so many different methods, and I could sit here all day and just teach you method after method, but that's why I offer one-to-one consultations, one-to-one training. We are sovereign beings, and we need to get back to where we're meant to be in our feminine power. But anyway, let's move on. There's a bit more to this video. What I want you to remember is that managing your energy isn't about controlling it, it's about conducting it. Like a symphony conductor, you're directing powerful forces with grace and precision. And the key practice is to start with one technique. I recommend the power center activation. What I want you to do is to master it before adding others. And what I want you to do is to notice how differently people respond to you when you're operating from a centered place of power, because it will be so different to what you're used to. I want you to notice it, take notes. And the most important thing to remember is that your feminine energy knows how to do this naturally. It's just that it's just been knocked out of sync, but your feminine energy knows how to do this. Remember that we're just remembering what we've always known. So I've got one last practice to go over with you, and it's the integration practice. And again, I want us to try this together right now. Think of a challenging conversation that you need to have. Now let's craft it using this framework. So step 1, start with connection. I value our relationship or collaboration, whichever one it is. Step 2, state your truth with grace. I need to share something important. Step 3, create collaborative solutions. So I use this framework, and at the point it wasn't even a framework for me. It was just something that I learned for myself when I was managing a team, and I used it when I needed to address a member of my team's performance issues. And the crazy thing, and it's not even a crazy thing, but the crazy thing is, instead of creating defensiveness, it opened up a genuine dialogue that led to positive change. Remember, these are not just scripts to memorize, they're templates to adapt your authentic voice. The key is maintaining that balance between warmth and strength, and between understanding and clarity. And what I want you to do is to practice these frameworks in low stakes situations first. Notice how people respond differently when you communicate in this way. Notice how their energy shifts when you pause, when you bridge, and when you use strategic vulnerability. And this is the art of feminine power in action. Not pushing, not pulling, but dancing with energy and intention. As you master these basics, you'll start to notice something profound. Your presence becomes magnetic, and I'm being serious. Your presence will become magnetic. People are drawn to a combination of warmth and strength. You'll find yourself influencing outcomes without pushing and leading without forcing. So what I want to say now is that if you're feeling called to step more fully into your power, I want to personally invite you to join my Quiet Power Revolution program, and I'd be honoured to guide you through the transformation. Inside the program, you'll find deep dive training modules, live coaching sessions, a community of powerful feminine women. Remember, you don't have to choose between being graceful or being powerful, because your true power lies in both. This is your birthright, and it's time to claim it. So what I want to say is, thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And please share this with like-minded ladies. And the last thing is, don't forget that your presence is your power. Bye for now. Mwah.